The following day, Jiang exited his apartment and ventured into a nearby forest. Pulling out a map, he held it in both hands and scrutinized it, unsure of the correct direction. He pondered if he had once again become lost. Suddenly, a loud cry for help echoed through the woods. Jiang turned around, his expression confused as he searched for the source of the shouting. Nearby stood a massive tree, and on the ground next to it lay a sword. Perched atop the tree was a white-haired man gripping a branch, calling out for help due to his fear of heights. Jiang turned around, gazing up at the man in silence as he contemplated the situation. Deciding to assist him, Jiang reached out his hand and utilized his ability known as Growth of All Things, Vine. Instantly, several branches sprouted from the ground and extended towards the man. Just as he was about to lose his grip on the trunk and fall, the branches wrapped around his body, securing him and preventing his descent from the tree. A few moments later, the man landed on the ground with a thud. He dropped to his hands and knees, panting heavily, and explained to Jiang how frightened he had been. He had only intended to rescue a bird's nest, thinking it wasn't very high up, but once he started climbing, he realized the height was daunting. Jiang approached him, observing with a drop of sweat trickling down his cheek, somewhat puzzled that the man, despite his fear of heights, had climbed the tree to rescue a bird's nest. He couldn't decide if the man was brave or foolhardy. As the man stood up, Jiang noted he was older. He reached out his hand to Jiang with gratitude for saving him, then inquired what Jiang desired in return. Jiang, feeling disoriented, asked the man for directions to the Tianjiao camp. The man turned away from Jiang, walking with closed eyes and a smile, inviting him to follow along. He explained that he was also headed to the Tianjiao camp for a task. He scratched the back of his head in gratitude and decided to accompany the man. As they walked, Jiang reached out and inquired about the man, wondering if he too was a job changer. He found it curious that the man carried his sword behind his back instead of storing it in the system inventory. He walked ahead of Jiang and clarified that he wasn't a job changer. Rather, he was simply an enthusiast who enjoyed practicing with the sword. Turning towards Jiang, he made eye contact with a cheerful smile, sharing that in his youth, he lacked natural talent for such pursuits. After failing to switch careers, he battled and toiled for nearly a decade, unable to even afford a basic living space in the city. Desperate, he fled to the mountains, stumbling upon a small, deserted cabin. Climbing atop a table inside, he contemplated ending his life. Yet, as he glanced to the side, he spotted a sword. Upon seeing the sword, his will to live surged back. From that moment onward, he devoted himself to daily sword practice in the mountains. He spent 20 years mastering sword drawing and 30 years honing his fencing skills until a sudden revelation struck him. He asked Jiang if he found it incredible. Jiang, feeling a bit bewildered, agreed that it was indeed remarkable. The man gripped the sword in his hand, glanced at the ground, and offered to teach Jiang how to wield it, mentioning a special move he knew. Before he could disclose its name, Jiang interrupted, declining the offer. Hearing this, the man sheathed his sword, closed his eyes, and smiled warmly, thinking Jiang was a tad impatient. Deciding to bide his time until Jiang was ready to learn swordsmanship, the man patiently waited. Jiang gazed up at the sky and was surprised by what he saw appear. With a joyful expression, he beckoned the man to look and asked if that was the Tianjiao camp. Much to everyone's surprise, the man vanished without a trace. Jiang looked around, noticing the man's absence. Confusion clouded his thoughts as he wondered where the man had gone, finding his sudden disappearance peculiar. Meanwhile, at the Tianjiao camp, helicopters buzzed overhead. At the entrance, a receptionist attended to a lengthy queue of people waiting in front of the desk. The receptionist instructed all incoming geniuses to queue up for registration at the camp entrance. Each person was to receive an identification bracelet that could only be removed upon elimination. A man with black hair stepped forward to register. Shortly afterward, it was Jiang's turn from Chujiang City. He accepted his identification bracelet and proceeded to fasten it securely around his wrist. In the camp, Mu Hangqiu was also present. She placed a hand over her chest, gazing affectionately at Jiang and blushing when she saw him arrive. To Mu Hangqiu, he was her master, and to Luo Sundao, he was her benefactor. Jiang felt confused, unsure of what was unfolding before him. While being a benefactor was acceptable to him, being her master was not. The two began to argue heatedly, exchanging insults with aggressive looks. Luo Sandao couldn't understand why Mu Hanqiu referred to Jiang with affectionate terms. She had often advised Mu Hanqiu to read fewer romance novels to avoid such fanciful thoughts about men. Mu Hanqiu retorted that now she understood what true love was, affirming that Luo Sandao meant nothing to her. As the argument escalated between them, Little Nine appeared. She produced a piece of watermelon, closed her eyes, and while eating, expressed to Jiang how amusing she found their quarrel. Jiang was taken aback by the situation and remained silent. Luo Sandao pointed accusingly at Mu Hanqiu, questioning why she was getting so close to Jiang for no apparent reason. Mu Hanqiu approached Jiang, took hold of his arm, teased Luo Sandao, and told her to stop being so self-centered since she wasn't the one he was interested in. Mu Hanqiu asserted that Jiang had the final say, but Jiang remained silent. Seeing this, Luo Sandao pointed at Mu Hanqiu and mockingly reminded her that she had predicted this outcome long ago. Mu Hanqiu touched her fingertips together, gazed at the ground, and explained that Jiang was very handsome. Luo Sandao approached Mu Hanqiu, placing a hand on her shoulder and laughing, asked if they were friends again. Mu Hanqiu looked at her and explained that she felt they were now both better friends and love rivals, akin to friendly enemies. Jiang, observing this exchange, began to sweat and thought to himself that girls were quite strange. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed nearby, drawing everyone's attention toward a cloud of smoke. As the smoke dispersed, Jiang wondered aloud about the source of the noise. Luo Sandao peered intently and discerned that a fight was underway. The man Jiang had seen at the camp's entrance reappeared. Rolling up his sleeves and with a determined expression, he demanded to know who was fighting. It was concerning that a fight had broken out before everyone had even entered the camp. He questioned whether this person was actively seeking trouble. Jiang, standing behind him, scrutinized the man and recognized him as the patrol instructor. He wondered if the instructors possessed strength at the 3rd level. As the instructor approached the fight, someone delivered a powerful punch to his stomach, sending him staggering backward. Witnessing this, Jiang was stunned. The instructor's body was forcefully thrown backward, crashing to the ground. Jiang instinctively placed a hand over his chest, gaping at the scene. Despite bleeding, the instructor managed to instruct others to notify their superiors, realizing the situation was escalating. Luo Sandao was rendered speechless by the sight of a 3rd-level master being effortlessly thrown into the air. She looked around in surprise, wondering who had struck the instructor. Mu Hanqiu's expression turned serious as she disclosed that they were the top performers from Jiangnan's war zone. A woman with red eyes, dressed in assassin attire, emerged. She placed her hand on her hip and silently observed the instructor. Her name was Tang Ying, renowned as an assassin of terrifying strength. As the youngest gold medalist in Tianji Tower, her reputation preceded her, having recently taken down a formidable level 4 master. Another man with red hair emerged, his aura brimming with potent energy. He fixed his gaze on Jiang and couldn't suppress a smile. His name was Bai Feng, known as the Little God of Death, and he served under the chief commander of the East Sea Defense Line. Despite being the military district's brightest prospect, he struggled with psychological issues that could turn him uncontrollably violent. Another man with blue hair joined them, raising his sword to the sky and fixing his gaze on Jiang with a smile. He introduced himself as Xiao Beihan, heir to one of Great Xia's 7 guardians. His Blue Lotus immortal swordsman profession was esteemed, akin to a divine-level role. Luo Sandao looked at Xiao Beihan with dread and muttered to Jiang about her unfortunate familiarity with him. The majestic sword he wielded had been pilfered from her residence. Jiang regarded him calmly, his gaze settling on Xiao Beihan, confirming without a doubt the prodigious nature of his strength, surpassing even that of Xiao Yuanwu. Among them, a shirtless man with orange hair stood, the focus of the trio's attention, his identity and the reason for their aggression unknown to onlookers. He rose to his feet, assuming an aggressive stance and preparing to strike. As the smoke cleared, he tightened his fist with determination, deciding it was time to retaliate. With a fierce glare, he exerted all his strength, delivering a powerful punch to the ground, shattering it into pieces. He was an unparalleled descendant named Jiang Wushuang. Rumored to possess 3 unique and secretive professions, his strength was extraordinary, evident from how the trio failed to overcome him. Mu Hongqiu and Luo Sandao exchanged astonished glances at Wushuang. Even Jiang himself was taken aback, realizing Wushuang ranked 3rd on the summer leaderboard. He wasn't sure if his small insects could confront this opponent. Just then, Xiao Beihan gathered momentum, leaped into the air, seized the sword with both hands, and poised to strike. Jiang glanced up and realized the situation wasn't favorable. As Xiao Beihan landed on the ground, his powerful grip on the sword caused the earth to crack beneath him. He was dangerously close to Luo Sandao, but fortunately, Jiang swiftly grabbed her by the waist, leaped away, evading Xiao Beihan's attack. Xiao Beihan fixed a serious gaze on Wushuang, commending his formidable wind fist technique. Meanwhile, Jiang's gaze met Xiao Beihan's, who began to sheath his sword, visibly surprised by Jiang's quick reflexes. He had heard that Jiang was the one who killed Xiao Yuanwu. Drawing his sword again, he aimed the tip at Jiang, surrounded by a powerful aura, and fixed an intense stare on him, disdain evident for the now useless Xiao Yuanwu. Today, Jiang would meet his end. Originally planning to confront Wushuang first and then deal with an ant like Jiang, since Jiang was here now, Xiao Beihan decided to begin with him. Jiang stood firm, refusing to be intimidated. He extended his hand to the side, releasing Little Nine's poisonous mist. With unwavering determination, he confronted Xiao Beihan, stating that despite their differing strengths, the Xiao family was fundamentally corrupt to the core. Xiao Beihan moved forward, his sword held at the ready. Witnessing this, Jiang spread both hands to his sides, readying himself for the impending clash. Despite his promise to Uncle Ji Gang to conceal his true power, circumstances demanded otherwise now. Luo Sandao, standing behind them, chose to stay silent. Just as the battle was about to commence, a devastating slash cleaved through the air towards them, ripping the ground apart. The command was clear. Everyone was to step aside as the Grand Instructor, renowned as the King of the Celestial Sword, arrived. Witnessing this, both Xiao Beihan and Jiang ceased their preparations. Jiang turned his gaze towards the source of the attack, pondering who this King of the Celestial Sword could be. It dawned on him that this instructor was none other than the man he had rescued from the tree earlier. He pointed his sword at them, his expression grave as he warned that anyone causing trouble before camp commenced would face his blade. Jiang stared at the instructor, stunned and sweating. It was hard to believe the odd old man he had met on the road was the formidable figure known as the King of the Celestial Sword. With a single sweep of his sword's energy, he had rendered the 4 great geniuses motionless with fear. Jiang worried whether his tiny insects had also been obliterated by the shockwave of the sword.